What's up, friends? It is Dr. Remy LeBeau, and I'm here in the X Lair to help you get through the next few days with providing you your regularly scheduled treatment for this terrible illness, or some could say a blessing, the X-Men statue withdrawal syndrome. It's terrible or wonderful, depending on how you look at it, and I'm here to help you deal with it or help you enhance it. With this very cool statue of Cyclops in his X Factor uniform, the only full-sized X Factor Cyclops statue ever to be produced, the best X Factor Cyclops statue ever to be produced. Even though it is the only one, it's still the best because it's actually a really great statue. And Bowen Designs, who produced it, did a really great job with it. The statue was sculpted by Kuram Alavi digitally. This is number 30 of 328, folks. There's only 328 of these in existence. And it was released last year in 2012. Um, this was one of the website exclusive made to order statues that Bowen Design sometimes puts up um, for order on their site, which for only a short period of time, maybe like a 2 to 3 week window, depending on the amount of orders that come in during that time, will dictate whether or not a statue gets produced. And it'll also dictate the edition size. This was one of the statues that had to deal with that sort of process, and it wound up producing this very cool statue that has a very limited edition. And although I think there's this statue hasn't really like you can still find it. So right now it's like June 2013. You can still find it for a reasonable price, like 150 to 200 bucks. I think the reason for that is because collectors have not gotten on the bandwagon to get the entire X Factor set yet, but they will. That's going to happen. And as soon as that does happen, I think people are going to want this statue. And because there are like 500 Jean in her X Factor uniform, and only 328 of these, I think it's going to become a very limited statue, a very sort of like a scarce statue and like a chase item uh, in the next few years. I'm sure of it. We've got the Power Belt Iceman coming, which is like the X Factor Iceman, which is like a clear statue. It looks fantastic. It's coming in the next few months. And there's also the Beast X Factor statue, which should be coming out in the next few months, which looks fantastic in his brown and yellow costume. It looks great. So there's like the full X Factor set that's pretty much been released. If you throw in the Archangel statue into it, it works as a full set of the 5 original X-Men in their X Factor costumes representing that era. This statue, because it's so limited and because it's central to that set, again, is going to be something that's going to be hard to find. And I suggest that you guys, if you're on the fence, to get off the fence and get this statue before it's too late. Before it's too late. All right, so some of you may recognize that this statue is actually a variant of the modern Cyclops statue, which I've already posted a video and photos of on my blog. And it's also a variant of the original costume Cyclops, which I may or may not have posted yet. It depends on when I decide to post this one relative to that one. So there were 3 of this statue made, but this obviously, like the hand pointing out, is different. So it's different than the other 2, and the other 2 are kind of mirror images of each other. And that one has like his hand up to his visor from the right side of his face, and and the other one has it on his left side, the left side of his face. So they're like basically the same statue, but just everything's like on opposing sides. This one is different in that it has like this pointing finger, pointing up to basically, I think Apocalypse is what it's pointing at. So this is based on, I think, X Factor number 80, 75 to 80, somewhere in that range. It the costume itself is not based on that issue, but the pose and basically the look of him, like as far as his face and like his pose, is it's one of the covers that represents the storyline in which Apocalypse gets a hold of Nathan Christopher Summers as a baby, infects him with the techno-organic virus, and sends him into the future to become Cable. And the covers and the artwork in those issues is done by Wills Portacio. I don't know if I'm 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 pronouncing that right. I hope I am because the guy's like a super talented artist. He's like a Filipino dude, and he's done some great work, and he did some great work in those issues. And there's like a cover of Cyclops, and he's like pointing up, and then you got the rest of X Factor behind him, and it's really cool. And this statue is meant to sort of evoke, if not emulate completely, that cover and like um, sort of his stance and like what it meant, what it means is essentially, which is essentially him like just being a leader and leading the X Factor to their doom, their terrible doom. No, they survived. Spoiler alert, they survived. Um, so the statue itself, very cool. Like you've got this base, which is like this new extended X base that was introduced with these statues of Cyclops. And what I like about this particular one is that because it's like the statue is like two tone essentially, like blue and white. Randy decided to do just like a solid blue with the base, but it's like a metallic blue. It's a very nice choice. It complements the statue really well. It doesn't draw too much attention away from the statue, but at the same time is like a nice feature of it. So if you're just looking at the statue, it's like, oh, it's a nice X base with like a nice metallic blue, which is lovely. And then beyond that, of course, you've got the very simple costume for Cyclops, which is a costume that I love. I love the X Factor costumes because they're essentially like big X's. So here you've got the big X on the front, and then in the back also big X. There's a few elements from this that sort of uh, are representative of this costume in kind of the later part of X Factor because you like it has like these extra parts here to the X, whereas before I think the X just went straight down to his pant leg and went all the way down to his boot, and that just represents an evolution of this simple design. Some members online have pointed that out. Uh, Beyond that, I mean, beyond like the very cool X design on it, I mean, it's just like blue, like a blue, the blue bodysuit that I guess most superheroes like to wear. They like to wear these jumpsuits. So it's a very simple design. You've got the boots and the gloves, which add to it. But beyond that, it's just like the same statue that I've shown before with the variants. And it's great. Like the musculature is great. Like the pose is very nice. Um, and you can see photos of it online on my blog post just for some close-ups. I really like the visor on this statue. It's got kind of like a thick visor, and it's got like this nice thick slit to it, and it looks very nice. And I love like the stripe that goes up behind the head down to the front of the mask down to the visor. It's very nice. It's just like it's such a simple design and it just looks great and the statue looks great and it's the kind of thing that is kind of like a once in a lifetime sort of thing that will be produced. Like I don't hear of other statue producers wanting to produce this statue, and nobody else has produced it, and it reflects one of the great aspects of Bowen Designs in that they're willing to make sort of somewhat obscure versions of characters and even obscure characters, um, given that they make so much like and they make like the top selling characters like Thor and Wolverine and the Hulk. They make a lot of these statues that kind of sell out pretty quickly, and Captain America. Um, because they do that, they're able to do things like this. And so I'm so happy they did do this statue because I love it and I love X Factor's designs, and they look great in a display, in a statue display. Here's a very cool cover of X Factor number 50, which was actually drawn by both Liefeld and McFarlane. Yay for both of those guys. Love them both. McFarlane more, of course. And here you see like the later designs for the X Factor costumes. Um, Actually, so eventually they all kind of became, I think, like black and yellow. The X's remained in the costume, but they became black and yellow towards the end, towards the point where that cover that I mentioned with that Wills Portacio drew for that storyline that was like seminal to Cable's origin was told. At that point, the costumes had already changed, and this was actually not the original colors that were used for X Factor's costume when they were first released. I think Cyclops was like black and red, and um, Jean was green and yellow. So there's definitely been a lot of changes to the costumes, but this represents the costume in a lot of the stories that were told throughout this era for X Factor. So it's really cool. And here's another one. This is number 62. This is from 1990. This is like a year later. Um, this cover was done by Jim Lee. This is part of the Extinction Agenda, which was a crossover between X Factor, Uncanny X Men, and the New Mutants. And here you have uh, Cyclops in his blue and white X Factor costume, which is lovely. That's Havoc next to him in the middle, and of course that's Jean. And we've got Cable and Iceman and Jubilee and of course Wolverine, and it's Jim Lee. So it's like my three favorite artists, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, and McFarlane, have all drawn Cyclops in this costume, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, this particular issue of X Factor did not have them doing the art on the inside. So it's just the cover that is impressive to me because of these beautiful artists, these artists' beautiful works. I love them so much. They represent the era in which I started collecting comics, right before they started Image as a company. And so I've always been a big fan of them and always will be, always. Um, so I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say about this statue. As you can see, he's a very nice looking statue. You just have to display him properly with the rest of his team or on his own. He actually would work really well on his own or with other Cyclops statues if you want to do like a Cyclops sort of theme, maybe like evolving him from his original design to the modern design. That would work as well. In the end, it's just a very nicely done statue, and it's definitely worth having if you're looking to have uh, a Cyclops statue. I actually, if I were to choose, if I were to be put into the position in which I was asked to choose which Cyclops statue I wanted, and that's all I would be able to have of Cyclops, I would probably choose this one because I think it's like I really love the design. I really like how simple and elegant it is, and so that's something that I would likely end up choosing to have. There is one thing to mention here. I guess there's like a seam that can be seen from the body to the arms. I guess the whole thing wasn't cast together. Cast meaning like they make a mold of the original one and then they reproduce the statue from that mold. I think the arms were done separately, so you can tell that there's like a separation between the arms and the body. That doesn't bother me. Some people have mentioned that does bother them a little bit, but to each their own. Everybody has a right to have their own opinion. It doesn't take away from the statue whatsoever. I think it looks great, and again, in a display, which I'll eventually show you, especially once I get the rest of the X Factor team. He looks great, rightfully in his leadership role position. I just have no complaints about this statue at all. All right, folks, that pretty much does it for this video. Thank you so much for checking it out. Thank you for checking out my blog. My blog is X-Men Statues of Future Past.blogspot.com. My YouTube channel is Dr. Remy LeBeau's X-Lair, and as always, X in the box because ain't nobody checking me. I'll catch you all very soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.